everyone, welcome back to another Giant Slayer TFT patch rundown video. Today our analyst will be breaking down all of the relevant changes in patch 10.9. There's quite a few system changes to go over and heaps of balance tweaks, so let's jump right into it. But before we begin, please don't forget to click the links in our description. Give your support to everyone who helped make this video happen. We host many TFT tournaments with plenty of exciting content to come, so be sure to also follow our Giant Slayer TFT social media pages. Alright, let's get back into the video, and to start it off, let's talk about the new galaxies being added in 10.9. Up first is the Treasure Trove galaxy. Every minion and monster in the game will drop a loot box. That means there's going to be a lot more items, gold, and potential for Nico's help. How this galaxy affects the meta, we'll have to wait and see, but expect some wild matches on the galaxy with increased amounts of gold and items that you're likely to get. The second galaxy being added is Star Cluster. This galaxy makes it so that all 1, 2, and 3 cost champions are all 2-starred on every single carousel. One other change to note that is specific to this galaxy is the carousel in stage 2 will have all 2-cost champions. This is to help prevent insane power spikes of a player getting a 2-star 3 cost that early in the game. And that's it for galaxies. Let's move on to other system changes in 10.9. The largest change of the patch is definitely the change to the champion shop drop rates. From levels 3 to 7, the drop rate is being changed to increase 1-cost champions appearing in the shop and lowering the drop chance of 2 and 3-cost champions. This will reduce how easy it's been to hit 3-star champions for tiers 2 and 3, while improving the odds you'll be able to get 3-star 1-cost champions. For example, at level 6, the odds of finding a 3-cost is down from 35% to 30%, which makes rolling on 6 to hit 3-cost champions much more difficult. Overall, these changes should help balance the dominance of reroll compositions and may open the door for builds that utilize 3-star 1-cost champions. To see all of these changes to the drop chance, you can find a link to the patch notes in the description below. And the last system change is the item drop chance coming in 10.9, making it so that all players get at least 1 small orb in the first 3 PvE rounds. This will guarantee a minimum of 2 extra gold, which is great as the early game economy for set 3 was drastically reduced. Now you'll be able to afford 1 or 2 more champions early on, and that can help hit upgrades and either help you get a win streak early or hopefully at least reduce the damage that you take. Time to move on to the meat and potatoes of the patch with the balance changes. To start it off, let's go over trait changes. Before we dive into them, the general idea was to make a lot of smaller tweaks to reduce the power of larger traits such as a 6-piece trait while increasing the strength of 2 or 4-piece traits. Because of the number of changes, we'll just be going over the ones that are relevant to the meta. Brawlers having the bonus health change to 350-650 from 300-700 to help make 2 Brawler a bit easier to splash into compositions. 50 health is not an extreme amount in either direction, but it will help slotting into Brawler in cases where you're already running something like a Vi for Cybernetics or Malphite for Rebels. Once again, Cybernetic is receiving a nerf to 6 Cybernetics as it's being changed from 750 bonus health and 75 bonus attack damage to 700 health and 70 attack damage. It's a small enough decrease that 6 Cybernetic will still be strong, but if they continue to tweak the trait, it may eventually hit the point where it's no longer viable. That said, it should still be fine to play in patch 10.9. Interestingly enough, Darkstar is getting changed again right after it received a nerf in the B patch of 10.8. The bonus damage is going to 20-25 from 25-30. This is overall nerfing the trait again, so we'll have to wait and see how this affects the upcoming meta in 10.9. The balance team definitely has it out for this trait though, as it's been getting hit repeatedly by the nerf bat. Infiltrator is receiving 2 changes, with the attack speed bonus going from 50, 80, 125 to 50, 75, 120, and the second change is making it so that takedown refreshes the bonus attack speed at all trait tiers. Overall, this makes 2 Infiltrators much more valuable and only slightly lowers the worth of 4 Infiltrators. This change definitely opens up more options for splashing in 2 Infiltrator, especially with the trait having a spatula item. Protector is having the shield for 2-piece trait increased to 25% from 20. What this is meant to do is hopefully increase the viability of splashing in 2 Protectors for the front line. It may make 2 Protectors worth considering now, though most builds that use the trait will still continue to be the only time that you run it, as it's not really a splashable trait. Sorcerers getting reduction to their bonus spell power by 5% for 4 and 6-piece trait, as it's going from 20, 45, 80% to 20, 40, 75%. Overall, 6 sorcerers was fairly uncommon, so this doesn't matter too much, but for reducing the power of 4 for sorcerers, this will definitely make builds that utilize it a bit worse. Even though it's only 5%, that damage bonus is to every unit on the board, so any change can be a significant amount. It's unlikely to cause builds that use Force Sorcerer to become unplayable, but definitely hurts the strength of those compositions. Speaking of builds that use Force Sorcerer, up next is a nerf to 6 Star Guardian. The mana that each Star Guardian grants to the others when they cast a spell is going down to 50 from 60. This, alongside the nerf to Force Sorcerer, is going to be a large hit to the 10.8 meta composition of Star Guardian Sorcerer. On top of those changes is the reduction to the 3-cost champion drop chance in the shop at level 7, which makes it finding Syndra 3 and Nico 3 just a bit harder. All in all, there's a lot of negatives for Star Guardian 10.9. Maybe not enough to make the trait unplayable, but certainly makes it weaker overall. Vanguard is getting a big increase to the 2-piece trait as it's going from 60 armor to 125. Overall, this should increase the viability of splashing in 2 Vanguards, as an increase of 65 armor is quite a large amount. Starship is having its mana per second go up to 40 from 20, which is hopefully going to aid Aurelion Sol in being more viable. A relevant nerf to the meta is Valkyrie's critical strike threshold going from 50% down to 40. This will make all 3 of the Valkyrie champions just a bit weaker at carrying and may make adding 2 Valkyries less worth it. Chrono is receiving a bit of a rework, as the attack speed is now a flat 15% and will proc every 8, 4, or 2 seconds. This is also accomplished by the effect happening immediately at the start of combat, which is overall better, as you get the 15% attack speed instantly instead of having to wait 4 seconds. Overall, this makes 2 Chrono much better to splash in. And lastly, we have several changes to the Mech pilot. The base health is going down to 1500 from 1800, and the health granted to the Super Mech from the pilots is down to 45% from 50%. The last change is that the Mech pilots no longer get bonus mana when the Super Mech dies. All of these combined definitely hurt the Mech pilot quite a lot, so we'll have to see how the trait that's been so dominant in set 3 does in patch 10.9. Alright, let's move on to specific champion changes. There's quite a few changes to 1-cost champions in 10.9, with most of them being buffs to the 3-star variations. Alongside changes to 1-cost drop rates, this may make going for a 3-star 1-cost champion more viable. Fiora is getting her stun increased to 3 seconds from 1.5 at level 3. It's a decent stun length, but without her damage being buffed, it may not being worth going for a 3-star version. The blind duration for Graves' ability is going from 444 to 345 seconds. Graves 1 definitely provided a bit too much utility, and now you have the option of gunning for a 5-second blind at tier 3. It's definitely a good CC, it just depends on what builds are actually going to want a Graves 3. Kha'Zix is getting a much needed buff, as his ultimate damage is going from 175, 250, 400 to 200, 275, 500. While it's great that he's being buffed, it may not matter much for his viability, though a 3-star Kha'Zix will do quite a bit of damage if you happen to get it. Leona is having her 3-star ability increased to 200 damage reduction from 120. Alongside a buff to 2 Vanguard, it may become a realistic option to play for Leona 3, as she's going to be insanely hard to kill with these 2 changes. Malphite is having a 10% increase to his shield at tier 3, as it's going from 50% to 60%. Malphite is one of the better early game tanks, so this change doesn't really matter too much for him. If you get a Malphite 3, great. Otherwise, you've been pretty happy with Malphite 2's strength in the early game anyway. Twisted Fate is having a small buff to his 3-star ability, as it's going up to 550 from 500. Not much of an increase, as it's unlikely you're going to want Twisted Fate 3 anyway. And the last 1-cost champion is Ziggs. His bomb is getting buffed to 300, 400, 700 damage from 250, 325, 550. This will definitely boost how valuable of a champion he is early on, though Ziggs 3 may not happen often enough for that particular buff to matter. Moving on to the 2 costs, we have Annie. Her health is going up to 700 from 600, which is intended to help make her a better champion outside of just the Mech pilot. Being a sorcerer, she definitely has viability outside of the Mech pilot, but it's likely she'll just be used for that trait alone. Lucian is getting a bit of a quality of life change to now target the nearest enemy after the dash of his ultimate if the current target is dead. This will prevent him from stopping randomly and not targeting, which is a nice change to his AI. Sona is getting a significant change to how her ability works, as it no longer will cleanse all debuffs, just stuns. This certainly will reduce her usefulness, as removing all debuffs really increases her value. To compensate, they have increased her heal amounts to 150, 200, 300 from 100, 150, 200, though it may not be enough to offset the cleanse change. Yasuo is receiving a change to how his ability functions, as it no longer goes for the champion with the most items and instead hits the farthest unit within his attack range plus 2 additional hexes. He'll be able to play around Yasuo now, but him losing the ability to comfortably go on on carry champions with full items will reduce his usefulness by quite a bit. Master Yi is having his healing flattened to 12% at all levels, which now buffs his 1 and 2 star version while nerfing his 3 star. Combined with the Yasuo change, this may make the Slash Bros composition much weaker in patch 10.9. The other 3-cost champion being changed is Rumble. His ultimate damage is going to 350, 500, 1000 from 250, 400, 800. This increases the damage at each level a decent amount, but still, like Annie, he's likely to only be played in the mech pilot builds, especially given Demolitionist really isn't that flexible enough of a trait to splash in most compositions. Jinx is being buffed in 10.9 as the damage from her rocket is going up to 125, 200 from 100, 175. Overall, this will make her more viable as a carry midway through a fight, but doesn't address the time it takes for her to get to that point. Aurelion Sol is having his mana change to 40, 120 from 30, 80 to coincide with the change to Starship, increasing the amount of mana gained per second. Overall, it's a buff considering the mana is now 40 per second. Old Gangplank is coming back in 10.9 with the starting mana going up to 100 from 75 and the faster impact upgrade being buffed to a delay of 0.3 seconds instead of a 1 second delay. These are both nice changes for Gangplank and hopefully pushes him back to being a more viable legendary champion. And the last balance change is to Xerath. Xerath was certainly overperforming in 10.8 and these changes hopefully address that with his damage going down to 300, 400 from 350, 450. The splash damage percentage is also reduced to 25% from 50%. Overall, this should make him a bit weaker in general and hopefully not as dominating late game as he was in 10.8. There's only one item change in 10.9 and that's to Quicksilver. The CC immunity is going down to 10 seconds from 15 seconds. This is a fairly large reduction, though the item will still be useful. It may make Trap Claw more popular, though we'll have to wait and see how that plays out in 10.9. And that's going to be the end of today's patch rundown video, folks. There's quite a lot of small tweaks for this patch alongside major changes like champion drop rate and 2 new galaxies. Let us know in the comment section below what you're most excited for in patch 10.9. Thank you for watching, and if you're enjoying our content, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for future GiantSlayerTV videos.